Today in the shop, we've got a 1993 Xr100, and I'm going to show you step by step how to install a 1993 Xr100 front end with our RH Motorworks conversion stem. In the rear, we're going to be adding our custom rear linkage with a Von Cat shock. We've got our bearings, we've got our bushings, all the tools and supplies to get started. So let's get at it. Here it is, our 1993 showroom fresh Xr100. We're going to RH Motorworks kit in the rear, RH Motorworks kit, Xr100 front, and then we're going to be replacing these balls in the steering head with tapered roller bearings because these are a bit notchy. Let's get started. So we've got our 1993 Xr100 clamps here. What we need to do is grind on this weld because this stem is welded to this base clamp here. So let's remove the top clamp. And we're going to put this in our vise. We want to grind this weld down so that it's flush with the rest of this top clamp. We're going to do so just using an angle grinder. Don't forget your hearing and eye protection. Okay, once we see this seam start to form here, it's time to stop and head over to the shop press. Okay, so we've pressed out the stem from the triple clamps, and we can undo this nut, take off the old seal, top bearing, lower bearing and lower bearing seal. Slide out the old stem. You're left with an edge here that we need to clean up. Use a file, flat file, round file, Dremel, something just to come in here and clean up this edge. before we can press in the aluminum stem. Alright, so we've got our lower triple clamp ready to install our stem. I recommend sticking the stem in the freezer, and we'll use a torch, heat up this lower part before we press it all together. Once we get the stem in the lower triple clamp, we'll install our seal, greased up lower tapered roller bearing, and then this assembly will be ready to go. Then we just need to install these bearing races back into our chassis. We can bolt everything together. Alright, so we've got our RH Motorworks link with our bushing kit all laid out. We're going to tap in these bushings where they go, and they will stick out just enough on each side for the seal to slip over. We'll then tap in our little bronze bushing in the shock pivot end, along with our inner sleeve and our seals. And as we assemble, we're going to use this marine grease that's water resistant, keep everything nice and lubricated. Let's get started. Alright, so we're going to take our plastic sleeve and get them started with some nice light center taps. Try to avoid big heavy strikes. You just want to tap it into place. You'll get to a point where it'll stop. At that point we'll pick it up and we can just finish it off by hand. Now that we have the two plastic bushings installed, we're going to install this little bronze lined bushing. So getting it set up, similar technique, light taps. Once you get close to the end, find a socket that fits within this recess. Finish it off. Perfect. Now that we have all these sleeves installed, we're going to grease up these little shafts here, slide them in place, put on our little dust seals to finish it off. This whole thing will be messy and greasy. That's exactly what we want. Same thing with this guy, and we'll finish it off by just pressing these little sleeves in with our hands, which you can do before that goes in there. Same thing, we'll slide this guy in, put that on there, and then we're ready to go. So we're installing our new bearing races in the head tube. If you don't have an actual bearing race installer, totally fine. You can usually work in a circular pattern to get it into place. Maybe you can use a socket or something that fits inside this lip here. We've got an actual bearing race installer, so we're going to use that. Bottom one done. Going to be installing our upper bearing race. Set it into place and use some light taps in a circular motion to get it started. Finish it off with our bearing race installer. Ready for the triples. Now it's time to install our triple clamp with the new stem. We'll be reusing the Xr100 castellated top nut. So we can go ahead and slide this in from the bottom. Install our new taper roller bearing. Seal. And castellated nut. Okay. What I like to do now is set all the bearings. I like to use these guys, and we will just tighten until we feel resistance. It's probably about there's where we feel resistance, and it's pretty tight. We're going to back it off just about 1/8 of a turn. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to put the top clamp back on. So we're going to make sure that we have these coming through. Your provided reducer sleeve goes on the stem. This guy goes over. We are going to loosely install the top nut. Okay, time to slide our fork legs in, and remember, left side of the bike is our brake caliper side. So we can go ahead and slide this guy into the triples. Same thing with the other side here. What I like to do, stick this up about 1 inch in the top triple. It's a good starting point. So we'll go ahead and get these cinched in and be ready for more. Up next, we're going to install our wheel. We're going to go ahead and install our stock Xr100 front fender onto this Xr100 triple. Bolt holes will line up no problem. like it was made for it. We can circle back and tighten this top stem nut. So we've got our torque wrench here. We're going to tighten this until it's 50 foot-pounds. Just like the manufacturer's spec. Perfect. We can go ahead now and put our throttle back onto our bars. Put our bars in the top clamp. We'll get them installed for now. We'll do an ergonomics check at the very end and get them dialed to what we think is right. The RH Motorworks stems come pre-drilled at the top for your fuel vent hose. You can go ahead and install that now. Kind of starting to look like a bike again. Time to install our link. Congratulations, your link is now installed. Out of the box, I like to take the Von Cat shock and give 2 turns more on the preload for 200-pound riders. Please set your sag to your riding preferences. Installing the shock, what I like to do is remove this swing arm linkage bolt here. That allows me to get things lined up a lot easier. Then I can install the top shock bolt. And then sometimes there's misalignment, whether it be worn out swing arm bearings. This bike is a 93 and it's pretty beat up, so things could be out of whack. In that case, I'll show you the technique, which is also going to apply to the longer shock, such as the D&M. Just like so. job isn't done until you torque things down. All these larger of the linkage bolts here, 33 foot-pounds. Upper shock bolt is the same. $33 foot-pounds. Final thing we're going to do is this lower shock bolt, 25 foot-pounds. Then we're ready to put the airbox and the plastics and the seat back on. About to put on our brake caliper, I always like to apply a little bit of Loctite to the threads. Just a little bit of the temporary glue stuff. Feed that through. So. Same thing for the other bolt. Blue Loctite. Okay. I'm going to reinstall the OEM Xr100 number plate here. Shout out to Kevin Windham. Now we can come in, get our nice master cylinder installed on the bars. Make sure you leave the throttle housing loose for alignment. Go ahead and cinch down our throttle assembly. We are ready to send. Alright, there you have it. Front and rear end RH Motorworks swap on this 1993 Xr100. Time to pull it off the stand. Last time here. Oh yeah. missing something. I know. Now we're ready to send it.